password on this computer. All right. So we are welcome again to everyone who is joining us. Thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules. So we're a little bit late today, but we're just going to dive right in. And we're going to talk a little bit about marketing research, why it's so important, how to get started, and how to find some information in regards to whether your genre is marketable. Is it going to be an evergreen genre, and we're going to kind of go over all of those little details, and hopefully you guys will leave this evening with a little bit better of an understanding on market research and how to jump into the deep end of it so that you guys can create market plans and ideas on how you're going to market your books successfully. So what is market research? Let's start off with that question, because that's one of the questions that I do get asked quite frequently. Market research is basically where you are trying to find out if the product that you have has an established market, and if so, how large it is. That is it in a nutshell. That's the layman explanation. When it comes to books, it's a little bit different because each genre has its own subgenre, and some actually have subgenres of the genres that we write in on a good day. So it's really important to understand first and foremost what your genre is that you are writing. So when we talk about fiction writing, of course, we're talking about, whether it's romance, whether it's horror, whether it's suspense, whatever it is. So where would we start when it comes to actually setting it up and putting together a game plan on how to actually get started on finding out if the idea that you have is marketable, if it's profitable, if it's one that you are going to make money on. So the easiest way, honestly, is to check Amazon, because Amazon is one company that actually shares this data. Kobo, Barnes & Noble, most of the other ones are a little bit more, they keep the cards close to their chest when it comes to their marketing information and let you know what's selling, what's not. So you can go on to Amazon and you can see what the top 100 books are in your genre. You can narrow it down. You can get pretty niched with it. Now, when you're doing this, you want to look at your top 100 books, because those are typically the ones that are actually selling, and they are the ones that are actually moving. And so when you're looking at those top 100 books, you're not just looking at, okay, well, I'm in the genre of romantic suspense, I'm going to look at just at this. You're going to be looking at you're also going to be looking at a couple of other details. So you're going to be looking at their blurbs. You're going to make sure that you're studying the blurbs. You're going to look at reviews. You're going to really kind of farm out the information that you're going to get the reviews from, because your reviews are going to give you a clear outline of what your readers' expectations are. Now, I'm going to preset all of this and throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in here by telling you, you can write a book that has a very niche market and you can make money at it. You just have to apply a different marketing methodology. You're breaking ground. You're not necessarily writing into a market that's already established. So you have to break ground a little bit. You can do it. You can make money that way. But if you are really serious about making more money faster than you need to be, you need to understand what your readers' expectations are at the moment and actually look at what's selling. When I talk about looking at what's selling, I don't necessarily mean trends. Trends, unless you are a super fast writer, oftentimes by the time they get to be super popular, they're already waning. So it's not, I mean, you can follow a trend and you can actually make money at it, because they do cycle back and they do come back around. But You want to look for tropes. You want to look for topics and themes that your readers are going to relate to today, tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now, because that's what's really going to be important. Now, there are a couple of tools out there that you can use. K-Lytics is amazing for breaking down everything. Their reports are intense and they are jam-packed. They did one last year at Christmas time that was a freebie for everybody, and I believe it was 83 pages long, and it broke down everything from what the tropes were that were popular, when they were released, when sales were happening. So if you want to pay the money for it and go the easy way, you can certainly go through that. I mean, you are still going to be doing some research through that, through K-Lytics, but it does give you a faster return on investment when it comes to marketing research. So you want to check the blurbs, and when you're looking at the blurbs, you want to look at how they're put together, what the content is that's connecting with readers. So when you're looking at two different books, you want to look at a book that, you know, say you've got two separate books, same genre, but one book has 100 reviews or ratings on it and the other book has 10. The one that has 100 reviews on it has probably sold a lot more copies than 100 copies, because as we all know, getting a review is like pulling hen's teeth. So you want to really break down the fine details within that blurb, within that whole sales page. So that you can really understand exactly what is being communicated to the reader. Because if you can mimic it, you don't want to outright copy it, but if you can mimic it and follow that example and pick out the nuances and do it really well, then you are going to attract, it's automatically going to attract the readers that you want. So, you know, you're looking at that. You're going to be looking at pricing as well. This is, I know this sounds really weird, but the reality is that as an indie author, you do not want to price yourself out of the game, whether it's too high or too low. And one of the trends that I have been hearing about is that 99-cent books and permafreeze and the freebies, they're slowly waning. People are not grabbing them. They're not swooping in and grabbing these ones and buying them. They're more inclined to pay a little bit more and get the full price book. And I think it boils down to that reader perception, or the perception that people have that you're going to pay more for quality. It doesn't necessarily mean that your 99-cent book is bad. It could be a great book, but people are going to say, oh, well, it's 99 cents. It may not be that great. So, so you're going to look at your pricing as well. A few other places to look. Not only do you want to check out Amazon, but look on BookBub. Look on Goodreads. Goodreads is a platform designed for readers. It is not one that authors are on a lot. We are on it as a marketing tool, as a means to actually gain some engagement, but it's not necessarily the same platform for an author as it is for a reader. They're there to find their next great read. They're there to find their next author. And so if you're looking, you know, do searches, look through and find the reviews on the books that are in your genre. See what people are saying about these books. Sample the books. And I know this sounds a little bit odd, but when you are doing your market research and you're looking for your next project, if you're in a genre that's established, go and get some of those books and read the ones that are in the top 50, top 20, top 100 even, because that's going to give you a really good idea of what is selling, what is moving, what the reader is looking for, not only by the, you know, your style, your voice is unique. You're not going to be copying another author, but by putting that information into your plan and overall capacity to understand what the market is looking for, then it gives you a leg up, so to speak. Now, when we talk about writing to market, this is something that's really important. When you're doing your market research and you're writing to market, one of the big questions you need to ask yourself is why you're writing, what you're writing. So I'm going to use a book that of mine from last year that I wrote. I love it. It's one of my favorite books, but it's incredibly niche, and that's Chains of Rome. It's ancient Roman gladiators, that sort of thing. It's very, very niche. There's not a huge market for it until we have the next Gladiator movie, at which point that I'm already I'm way ahead of the game. But had I done my research, I probably would have noticed that there's fewer that the authors that have written in that particular genre have moved on to other genres because it's not a huge seller. You're breaking ground. So you also want to look at the authors themselves that are writing in your genre. You want to do comparison authors. So if you're writing a paranormal, and Bobby, I'm totally throwing you under the bus here. If you're writing a paranormal, you're going to want to look for authors that are writing similar to your story. So whether that is, whether it's vampires, whether it's werewolves, whether it's, demons, whatever it is, you're going to look for authors that are similar to what you are writing, and you're going to look and see where they are in the rankings on Amazon. You're going to look and see you're going to look and see all of the different aspects that come with that particular genre, and you're going to break it down to the nitty gritty. Kindlepreneur has a really, really, really good tool where you can actually you can put in the ranking, and you can actually see or get a guesstimate of exactly how many books you need to sell in a day to get a specific ranking. So if your ranking is, say, 5,011, you can actually put it into this online calculator, and it will actually tell you, well, you need to, if you want to get to this ranking, you need to be selling 18 books a day. And that's really important to understand as well. So you want to know how many books you need to be selling when you're doing your market research as well, because when you're looking at it, you need to have an idea of what you need to do, because marketing is not necessary. Marketing is the ability to make a connection. It's not necessarily a paid advertisement. It's more of delivering on the delivering on the expectations of your readers. Now, I happen to know an author. She's fantastic, and I love her to pieces, but she's breaking ground because she's doing a lot of Asian-styled light novels, American light novels, and her market is not in North America. And so she's having to do a little bit more. She's breaking ground, and it's a little bit harder. And that's really is something that you have to make a decision on for yourself. Writing, if you have an established market, you're going to see more sales naturally because you're not breaking ground. You're putting out a product that people are already looking for, as opposed if you are in a super niche market, you may have to actually work a little bit harder for it. And so you want to make sure you understand that. Great tool to have is when you are create a spreadsheet. And when you're creating your spreadsheet, write down the rankings of the books that are in your genre. Write down those rankings, because those rankings are going to give you a lot of information, because of course you put it into that the Kindlepreneur program. It's going to tell you, well, if your ranking is 1,673 and you want to make number one, this is how many books you have to sell. That's a really good point to understand when you're doing your market research. One of the things that is often overlooked in market research is what the goal is, what your end game is. Are you looking short term? Are you looking long term? So when you're looking long term, for example, and you're looking at your genre, you're looking at what's selling right now. Go back if you can and go, take a look at on other platforms. BookBub is really good for this. Goodreads is really good for this. You can go and actually look and see books that have come out over the past 5 years or so, and see if they're getting lots of new reviews, if they're getting lots of interactions, they're getting, you can kind of see what's selling and what's not. Now, there are certain genres that just do well normally. Contemporary romance is really popular. It's one of the hottest that's out there, right? Hottest genres. Paranormal romance and fantasy romance, they're kind of they kind of do this a lot recently. Historical is a little bit lower than contemporary, but again, it's selling well. Mysteries and thrillers are really popular right now. They're selling. There's new genres and new subgenres that are coming out all the time, and so what's winding up happening is that we are seeing these new genres come out, and we're actually seeing sales from these because people are actually creating a market. And so that's really important when you are thinking of what your genre. Now, I know that some of us write, where we kind of write outside of the box in some of our writing, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, yes, you do want to make sure you have a market for it, but if you don't have a market for it, for example, how do you how do you do the research to find out, and say you've done that, your homework, and you find out that there's really not a market for it? So how do you move from there to actually getting it sold, getting sales, connecting with readers? And there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's, there's newsletter swaps, and there's you're going to break ground. You're going to be paying for ads for one. You're going to try and really be getting in front of readers. But part of your market research too is understanding who your reader is. So who here can give me an example of who their ideal reader is? Not a demographic, but I mean just one, if you could close your eyes and picture one person, who would that person be that is the perfect person that's going to read your genre?
I actually have one that I've met, and she is my perfect reader.
Mm-hmm.
She likes it kinky.
Mm-hmm.
And since I write reverse harem and menage, she's good with that. She leans more toward the paranormal elements of my stories than the sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
But I have her, and whenever I'm thinking about something and I have questions, I just ask her what she would, would this attract your attention? Would this not attract your attention?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's super important. So if I were to ask you, without giving too many personal details away, like what does this reader fit into? Like, is this reader a middle-aged woman? Is she, younger? Is she older? Does she have children? Is she retired? Is she semi-retired? How much time does she have? She works. So how much time does she have a week to spend on reading? Like, how much disposable time does she have a week to read?
She is actually a fairly avid reader. So she's definitely got 5 to 10 hours a week.
Okay.
Minimum.
Okay.
She has children, but they're not young children anymore. They're teenagers, getting ready for, in high school, headed to college. So she's not quite at the age where she'd like to retire, but she has it in the future, kind of making plans that way. So, so after that, then she would have much more time to read.
Okay. So that's really important information for two reasons, really. First of all, it gives you an idea of her likes, her dislikes, what her expectations are when she is reading, because you've nailed it down that she's more into the paranormal as opposed to the sci-fi. She's into the kinkier stuff as opposed to the more vanilla flavor. So she's giving you invaluable information. I mean, what she's giving you, the information she's giving you is worth its weight in gold and diamonds, because it's telling you, well, you know, this is my reader, so I need to write super spicy, and I need to write, you know, I need to be focusing on these elements and this and this and this, and I need to be hitting each one of these blocks. So how can we go about getting this information? Now, earlier I had mentioned reading reviews, and one of the things that is so important is, and I've done this, is take a notebook or, you know, create a spreadsheet. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through and you're going to read the 5-star reviews and see, you know, you read those, you pick out the details from those. You read the 1-star and the 2 stars as well. And I'll tell you why, because your 1-star and your 2-star reviews are going to tell you more often than not, if it's an actual reader of the genre, they're going to tell you where the writer, the author, failed to deliver on the experience that the reader was looking for. So, okay. Keeping that information is super important because it gives you, again, you know, it gives you the information to know that your reader, you know, maybe your reader is looking for, you know, deluxe pizza and you're writing cake, you know. I mean, I'm sorry to use food analogies here, but when it works, it works. So if you're writing cake and they want pizza, you're never going to connect with that reader because you're not delivering the experience that they want. And that's what you're doing, is you're not selling them a book. You are selling them an experience. Now, whether it's nonfiction, whether it's fiction, it doesn't matter. It's that experience, and what they take away from that book is what they're actually after. So reading the 5-star and the reviews, reading the 1- and 2-star reviews, taking notes, going through and looking through and taking the, you know, picking it apart. Don't just read on Amazon. Read on Goodreads, check out BookBub, check out Kobo, check out Barnes and Noble, check out wherever their books might be. And if they are, you know, if they have, if they've been on blog tours or whatever, check those out as well, because sometimes what you're going to find in a blog tour is going to blow your mind. I did a blog tour last year with one of my books, the Viscount's Prize, which is a super steamy, erotic Regency era historical romance with a suspense twist, and it's spies, and and I did a blog tour, and one of the on one of the blogs, the blogger's husband reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you mind me reading your book and leaving a review? I mean, you can get a guy's point of view on this particular book." And I'm like, well, whatever, I don't care. His viewpoint, the way that the information that I got back gave me so much information, because I had been going under the assumption that my books would not be engaging for men. I was reading under the assumption that it was only going to be women, but it didn't work out that way. He really enjoyed the book. So checking those out. If you have a PA or a publicist, they can also help you. Now, if you don't have a PA or a publicist, that's not a problem. There are other options. Does anyone here have Publisher Rocket? If you have Publisher Rocket, or you do not have it, I will tell you right now, it's phenomenal. You can get a lot of information out of it because it'll give you keywords, it'll give you categories, it'll give you, you know, what's actually going to get you in front of a reader. It's not going to do all the work for you. You still have to do a lot of the legwork, but it gives you a starting off point. It gives you a jumping off point. But you gotta put in the time. You gotta look at every aspect. And I know I have done this myself. Reach out to other authors in your genre and ask them and say, hey, you know, I'm curious to know how you know, how you've reached your success. You know, I see you're climbing up in, you know, you're climbing up in the rankings. I'll answer that question in just a second, Jackie. That's a really good question. Have a conversation with them, reach out to them on Facebook. For the most part, in my experience, authors are willing to chit chat. If an author shoots you down, don't take it personally. It's just, they may just not want to give away their trade secrets, and that's fine. But you, as an author, you need to put the legwork and you need to do the homework, because that's super important, especially if you want to make money. Okay, so Publisher Rocket is not less work to analyze than K-Analytics. Well, yes, I should say that. It is a lot less work to analyze than K-Analytics, because you're putting in search terms and it's going to tell you whether that search term is, has low competition, high competition. It's going to tell you whether, that is profitable, whether it's not profitable. It's going to tell you a lot of information in a very short period of time. And you could do multiple searches with it. They're constantly updating it. It's just not necessarily super specific to the genre that you're writing in. So if you're writing in rom-com, for example, you can go in there and you can pick out some keywords and you can pick out categories. It will literally give you all of the information that you want to make solid decisions with. It also is going to help you build on your sales page on Amazon and the other platforms, because as we all know, when we're putting up our, when we're putting our books up on Amazon and Kobo and Draft2Digital and everywhere that we're putting them up, we have to put in keywords, right? Well, Publisher Rocket will actually help you pick out those keywords that are going to get you higher in the algorithms to actually gain traction. It's not going to break it down and tell you specifically, well, if you're writing this is what's going to sell. That's not going. It's not going to give you that. It's not going to give you an insight into your readers' expectations as in depth as reading the reviews are. But it is definitely a product that I would highly recommend, because it does save you time in the long run. It's well worth the investment for you if you get it. And they're constantly updating it. If you get it before they go to subscription, then you get all. They actually just come out with a new update for it where you can now actually get the data from the German market, the German book market, which is phenomenal, because now you're not only just looking at North American market, you're looking at European market as well. So that's a very good point for that. It's another tool in the toolbox. And it's a one-time deal. I mean, it's $100. You're going to pay $100 for it, but it's worth it, and it's weight in gold. And K-Analytics, you're going to be subscribing to it. But now, if you do with K-Analytics, if you do your subscription with it, you get access to every genre. You get access to everything, and it can actually give you a lot of information. Now, I have what I call a master plan, market research spreadsheet that I have created for tonight. So I'm going to be creating I'll put up a link in the group. You guys can grab it, you can and download it, and that'll actually give you a spot where you can put some information. You can put all your market research in one spot. Super helpful. It was super helpful for me when I started looking at the genre that I'm writing in right now, which is Scottish Highlanders. It really gave me an idea of how much I could expect my research, how much I could expect in sales per month if I hit, if I did it to what my readers are expecting, how many books I would need, and it gives me all of that. So I have that for you guys. I will put it in the group for you guys so you guys can download a copy of it and play with it as much as you need. So market research does require you to do a little bit of legwork, but it is super important. And we are all here to make money. We are all here to run a business. We're all here to sell books. So it's one of those things that you never feel like you can't reach out to another author to get some insight on, or just to just kind of connect with other hey Kelly, other authors on, especially if it's in your genre, because especially if they have more experience than you, then you can learn so much from them, even just reading their books, reading their blurbs, looking at the pricing. Now, earlier I had mentioned you wanted to price according to the expectations of your readers. One thing I really want to make clear here is if you are a newer author, you know, if you have an author who's been doing it for 10 years that is writing in a genre and they're pricing their books at $4.99, because you don't have the same experience, you may not have the same reader base. Publishing your book and pricing it at $3.99 is not going to work against you. It's just going to give you a little bit of room to figure out where you need to go. And oftentimes newer authors, when they do that, they actually do see an increase in sales. Who here has done pre-orders? Because pre-orders are actually a part of a really good way for you to get a feel for the market, to a feel for your blurb, a feel for all of the packaging that you have on your sales page. So Amazon is kind of, well, Amazon does they all do pre-orders. Most of them do pre-orders. Now, Amazon sometimes will cancel a pre-order, but a pre-order gives you a set amount of time before that book launches live to generate sales, to generate interest. So if you release a book and it's not really gaining traction, but your research has said, hey, this is a hot genre, then it gives you room to go back and look at your blurb, study how you've got your blurb, and then study how other authors, and kind of go back and forth and check it out. And it gives you a chance to actually nail down your sales page. Blurbs are probably one of the hardest things to do because you are literally cramming, you know, an 80,000 word book into 300 little words. So you want to really focus on, you know, action words. You want to focus on emotional connectors, trigger words, those sorts of things. I will be doing, I'm actually trying to, I'm working on a roundtable class for blurbs, but because that's super, they're so important. But it's, so when you're looking at it, that's a big part. So who here would feel comfortable with their sales page? Come on, you guys would feel comfortable. Come on. You know, no, nobody's feeling the.
If I had a sales page, I would share it.
Bobby, when is your book due out?
Well, I had, because of the eye infection, I'm behind, and I got the book back from the developmental editor the day after I saw the eye doctor.
Oh.
And I have not had a chance. I just got okay to release to go back into my normal life last week. So I'm sitting down with it and going, okay. So
okay.
I'm way behind on what was expected.
Okay. Well, yes. So to answer your question, Jackie, your sales page is your Amazon listing. It's a page on Amazon, on Kobo, that has all of your book information. Now, I have my conference, which is set to launch September 1st. It's the Serious Authors Digital Conference. We're set to launch September 1st. We've got some really amazing presenters coming up. January, we actually have someone from the Amazon Ad School who's going to be doing an in-depth presentation, a 1-hour presentation, who with a sales page on Amazon. Don't ask me why I volunteered one of my books, but we're going to go. But he's literally going to give us the 5 do's and the 5 don'ts, and he's going to rip my sales page apart on this one book and really break it down. So I do hope you'll join me for that one. But your sales page, the reality is that you have less than 15 seconds to draw your reader in when it comes to your sales page. And so when you're looking at all of these other books and you're studying these books and you're looking at the blurbs and you're looking at, you know, their tags and all of these things and putting them all together, you got to remember you got 15 seconds. What is the first thing that your eye is drawn to? So part of your market research is going to be your cover. Your cover is going to be part and parcel of that. So you got to make sure when you're looking at it is what are the covers in the genre that are what are the most popular color. If you've got the top 100, look at those covers. Now you don't want to necessarily compare an indie cover to a traditionally published cover, and you can usually tell them apart a couple of different ways. You're going to look at the publisher name, you're going to look at pricing, and the reality is that traditionally published covers are vastly different because they deal with a different set of rules than an indie cover does. Okay, so you're looking for indie covers. You want to compare yourself to others in your position. You can look at the traditionally published, but you got to remember that's not really necessarily going to give you the best details and the best information. So, and putting everything you want to put it all together. Now, one of the things that I have discovered, and one of the things that I've started doing, is creating marketing research spreadsheets for the whatever genre it is that I'm writing on, whether it's contemporary, whether it's paranormal, whether it's romantic suspense, whether it's historical. I create this document and then I start going through and I start looking for the top books in the genre. Now, I also do a lot of reading. If you're going to write a book, for example, and Nikki, I'm gonna pick on you for a moment here. Say you decide you're going to kind of branch out and go from the fantasy, and you're going to do, say, a murder mystery, right? You're going to try and connect with other authors that are writing in that genre. You're gonna separate the two genres, because that's part of your market research too, is understanding the branding of others, of your competition, and understanding how you can offer something they can't. So what is it that you're offering in this new lane of murder mysteries that they're not going to get from, Gaina, who's been writing murder mysteries now, so what's different about you than from the other author, right? You're going to compare yourself, but you also need to think of how the experience that you're delivering is different from another author that's, whether it's spice, whether it's style, whether it's voice. Your style and your voice is probably one of the biggest tools that you have in marketing, because it's individual. Does that make sense? Okay. All righty. So do we have, now I've kind of I've been talking away here for about 45 minutes. I'm sorry. Do we have any questions? I'm happy to answer questions. I'll give you the benefit of my wisdom here. If you guys have any questions, I certainly don't expect you to sit here and listen to me yabber for an hour. I mean, I can, but does anyone have questions? Now, you guys, Jackie, you've had a couple of really, really great questions, and they are phenomenal. But does anyone else have any questions? So who here creates a marketing plan?
All of us should.
What do you do with all of the information that you get from your marketing research? You put it into a marketing plan. Who here has put one together before? Okay. All right. So when it comes to your marketing plan, I mean, depending on how in depth you want to get, that there's certain aspects. I mean, you can look at your break-even analysis, you can look at your profit margin, you can look at your gross profit, you can look at your expenses. There's so many different factors that play into that. But at the end of the day, the biggest aspect in your marketing plan that I think is really important is understanding and recording and setting realistic goals for yourself, and then doing the very painful periodic audit. Now, who here has done an author career audit besides me. Okay, highly recommend them. They're fantastic. They're incredibly painful, but what it tells you, what it will show you is incredibly informative. And I'm going to use myself here. I'm going to throw myself under the bus and use myself as an example here. So I've been published for 14 years now. I've been writing for a lot longer than that. When I first started, I started with this idea that, I started with one book and I started writing historicals. I wrote about 3 of them, and then I decided, I want to do this or I want to do that. Here's the problem that I didn't do. Here's what I didn't do when I first started that I should have done. Is I didn't take the time to research the market. So my first book was 8th century Ireland. It was the Celts and the Vikings. My next book was the 18th century French court during the 7-Year War. The book after that was post-Civil War America. The one after that was which one came after that one? Oh, the one after that was erotic Christmas, contemporary. Do we see where I made my mistakes? I didn't.
All over the place.
I was all over the place. I didn't do my homework. I did not do my market research. I will tell you, my first book, the Viking and Celt romance, when that book came out back in 2009, it was a bestseller. I sold several hundred copies of that book within the first 2 months. And then I did nothing. I went to France as opposed to paying attention to what I was being told and not doing my homework. Had I sat down and actually done my homework and researched and did my marketing research, I would have known, hey, this is really hot right now. This is I got the right tropes here. Let's build on them. Instead, I didn't. I went a different direction. But that's one of the things that as authors, we really need to be aware of. Now, you can write in multiple lanes. I am not saying that you need to pick one lane and stay in that one. If you want to write across multiple genres, go for it. What I would suggest is creating different personas to write under, different pen names to write under, so that you can explore all those different genres and you can do whatever you want, because your branding is going to be on point and you're going to be consistent in delivering that reader expectation your marketing research has told you that you need to deliver. Right? So that's a really important aspect of it. So who here, you guys, I'm assuming that you guys have access to, your Amazon Central page, your Goodreads page as an author, all of these other things. But do you follow other authors in your genre? Okay. Well, why? So you do and you don't. So do you follow authors in multiple genres, Nikki, or do you follow? Okay. Do you, and would you ever consider writing in those other genres? What is it about those other genres that attracts you?
I just get ideas to do practically everything. Plus, I don't know who knows me and who doesn't. I have Asperger's autism, so I think my brain just works a little differently. Mm-hmm. And I get inspired. I get ideas for book stories like 24/7. I mean, everything inspires me. Everything's a story idea. I mean, trying to give you, because my stories are never short, an example. I was on a Zoom call with my editor a few weeks ago or a couple months ago. I don't remember when. It was recently. And she actually asked me just off the cuff, because I was talking about my autism diagnosis didn't happen until I was 26 years old. And she said, how do you think your life would be different if you had never been officially diagnosed with autism ever? And never been asked that before, and immediately came up with the idea of I would be dead. That, quite literally, my autism diagnosis saved my life. I, had always felt a little bit different, a little bit off, was worried it was a more serious psychosis, a more serious mental health issue. And had I not had somebody to kind of rein it in, when I was finally told it was autism, I was kind of relieved it wasn't something that was going to cause me somehow to be like a psycho killer,
Yeah.
and autism I can deal with. And, quite simply put, I probably would have committed suicide. And then as I'm having this, just very casual conversation with her through Zoom, like I came up with the whole idea for a book. Like I want to explore that. I want somebody to, and her and I started batting back ideas, and it's like, I already have a million ideas. I don't need a million and one. And we just start, in 5 minutes coming up with, this awesome idea for a novel that I'd love to have time to explore. With creating, imagine there's a character who has no developmental disability, who has no mental illness, who's perfectly neurotypical is the word I use.
Yep.
And for some reason, everybody reacts to her as if she is the spawn of Satan, and what that would do to a person over time. And it's like, damn, I got another book, And then, somebody else was asking me, a very delicate, so I'll try to talk about this as vaguely as possible, morality issue. And I think it actually might have been my editor too. And, I came up with this idea for a romance. Hey, if, we extrapolated this idea and made it fictionalized, changed the names to protect the guilty and the innocent. And this, makes a whole other book. And it's really hard for me. Again, I'm going to blame the autism, because why wouldn't I? It's really hard for me to come up with an idea for a book and be like, well, this is horror, and this is sci-fi, and this is fantasy, and this, I'm in it for the art. I write what inspires me, what passionately motivates me. And I feel like the categorizations are for others. If somebody wants to look at a certain story I've written and say, this has to be only sci-fi, then that's their take on it. And somebody else could read the same work of mine and say, no, this isn't sci-fi, this is fantasy. I'm down with it being into readers' interpretation.
Okay.
My editor is very into, she wants me to be a romance novelist. I'm not sure that that's really where my heart is. Maybe sci-fi with a touch of romance. And she's like, no, has to be, no, you're definitely a romance art novelist. Trust me on this. I don't know what I am. I'm in it for, doing the stories that passionately get my attention. And if they're romance more than science fiction, great. If they're science fiction more than romance, if they're mystery thrillers, whatever. So it's really hard for me to approach it with like, I'm only going to follow other writers on Amazon who are romance novelists, or other writers on Amazon who are science fiction, because I don't really give myself the classification. I just am.
You're a genre bender. So a genre bending is usually where you take multiple genres and you kind of squish them all together, and you make a story out of them.
What I am.
Which can work for you, but it can also be a hindrance to you, because now you have to, when you do that, you have to hit the sweet spots in both the genres that you're bending together. So one thing, and Nikki, we can certainly set up a time and we can kind of have a back and forth and have a conversation about it a little bit later, because it's definitely something that is is going to be a branding nightmare for you. But one of the things that I think, is you understand the way that you write. So you understand your genre, you genre bent. Now, the book that you were talking about, you've got a million ideas. One thing that I would definitely recommend is when it comes to putting together your game plan, your marketing plan, is focus on what, you know, on separating them. So if you're writing more like say contemporary thriller, you know, what sort of thing, you definitely want a different persona, because the thing is, and I speak from the heart with this one because I've made that mistake. I have 35 books out, and I am just now rebranding myself and rebuilding my career. I did an audit last year, absolutely necessary, because I was all over the place. I had no consistency. My readers didn't know. And that's one of the big things, that because my readers didn't know, they knew when they when they got my books, they knew that they were going to get action. They were going to get, sorry, mosquito. They were going to get sizzling heat, but they didn't know whether it was going to be ancient Ireland, whether it was going to be France, whether it was going to be Spain, whether it was going to be Australia, the US, whether it was going to be modern day or a historical. They didn't know whether there was going to be demons and dragons and vampires. There was no consistency. So one thing that I would suggest is do an author map for yourself. And I can give you some information on that. We can set up a time and we can kind of go through that. It doesn't mean that you are boxed in with what you write. It just means that, you know, the freeway that you have of what you write is separated by dividers, which allows you to brand each lane properly to connect with the proper reader, right? And that's going to be a big thing for you, because it's going to also make it so much easier when it comes time for you to market your books, because your readers are going to know what to expect right out the gate. And that's going to be, that's a really important thing, because I'm sure you're not doing this, you know, you don't write to make money. I'm sure, you know, your aim is to eventually be able to make some money off of your books, right? When it comes to writing books that don't have a huge market, and I'm going to go back to Sue's analogy that she's a book marketer. I watched a presentation she did with Kobo last year, and her analogy was spot on, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically what she said was that if you are an author and, you know, you want to write a book about training frogs to jump through flaming hoops, that's fantastic, write the book. But if you're the only one that wants to read a book about training frogs to jump through flaming hoops, you're not going to sell. So having an understanding of the why you want to write, understand what your readers' expectations are, understand how to deliver those expectations, is super important. Now, if you've got multiple books, like, you know, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Maggie is probably at some point is going to reach to the computer at some day and because I have 5 different personas that I write under, because I have split my work into 5 different personas because I needed to. My readers, I'm branding for historical romance, Scottish Highlanders, Vikings and Celts. That's the brand that I'm going for. So my contemporary romantic suspense, that's under a different name. My romantic suspense with paranormal elements, that's LGBTQ, that's under a different persona. Because I didn't do the homework first. I didn't figure out where there's a term in marketing, it's called horizontal versus vertical marketing. And what I was doing is I was doing horizontal marketing. I was trying to snatch a piece of every market that was out there. Vertical marketing, you're pinpointing one segment, you're focusing on that, you're going to actually see results. With the horizontal, you're spreading yourself. It's like, you know, you've got, you know, the peanut butter jar is empty and you've got 2 pieces of toast and you're scraping the bottom of that jar and you're trying to spread it on. It's going to be pretty thin. It's going to be almost invisible, right? So that's something to keep in mind when you start marketing and you start looking at how you're going to put the things together, and you're comparing yourself to other authors and their blurbs and the reviews that they are getting. It's really important to keep that in mind as well. So Sorry, that was a side tangent. But it does make it does make it a lot easier when you're doing your marketing research, and it gives you all of this information, and when you're looking at it, you take it and you go and you give yourself 3 goals, and then you write strategies for each one of those goals, and that's where you're going to find those strategies. Your marketing plan, this is the other part of the puzzle. Your marketing plan is not static. It is it's a living, breathing document. It's a fluid document. You're going to be updating it regularly, because you're going to try something. Maybe it doesn't work, right? Like maybe you jump on the bandwagon with some new thing, and it doesn't work. It doesn't get you any sales. It doesn't get you any interest. There's nothing happens, no following, whatever. You're spreading yourself too thin again. So, you try something, it doesn't work, you write it off, you move on to the next thing. Your marketing plan needs to focus on your goals, the strategies that you have for those goals, and then go from there, because all of that research that you've got, all of that information, that well of solid gold information, which Bobby already has. She's got it handed to her on a platter here, like with her most beautiful reader there. That information, once she releases her book, she already knows she's going to be boom, she's going to go and get a different level of interaction from her readers, because she already knows her reader. She's got that reader, and that reader is telling her, I want spice, I want kink, I want paranormal, I want this. These are the things that I want. This is what you need to deliver to me. Make sense?
Mhm.
Awesome. Any other questions? I do not want to feel like I'm ignoring anyone or anything. By all means, feel free to ask them. Oh, there's Jackie. She left us. Now she's back. I will see if I can. I have to talk to the guy from Amazon Ad School. Like I said, we do have the course. He's doing the in-depth presentation for the course coming up in January. But I will see if I can get some tips before then to kind of share a little bit in regards to that. Knowing your keywords and your categories is a huge part of your marketing research and your marketing plan. If you don't have Publisher Rocket, if you know another author who does, that maybe can give you bounce some ideas off of you, give you some help, it would be really beneficial. Newsletters. Who has a newsletter? Okay. I'm going to be a meanie here. If you do not have a newsletter, you are missing out on an entire scope of marketing that is that you are limiting yourself. So here, there's 3 things about newsletters that are super important. One, yeah, you haven't gotten it yet. Oh my God, I will stick around after the presentation, Gaina, and I will chat with you for a moment. Just stick around, please. So newsletters are phenomenal for 3 reasons. One, you own the content 110%. As long as you are maintaining your account with whatever your provider is, whether it's MailerLite, whether it's Connects, whatever it is, you own that. Your newsletter list is a dedicated group of readers who are following you, who want to connect with you, which means you really have an unlimited ability to connect with them, to get feedback, to figure out what they want from the books, figure out, this is the heroine that I liked. This is the story I really liked. Getting that information. You can farm them to get information that is going to give you more insight on how to deliver the experience. And 3, it's a great sales tool. If you've got a new book coming out, or you're relaunching a title, or whatever, then, hey, my newsletter list, oh, hey, I've got this book coming out, it's phenomenal, blah, blah, blah. There you go. You have a captive audience. And so newsletters are incredibly, incredibly important. They do take a little bit of work to build up, but your newsletter is your long game. And your long game is ultimately where you're going to make those connections and actually be able to draw in your readers and engage with them. When you're looking at your newsletter, don't think of it as you're talking to 500 people on your list. You're not. You're talking to one reader only. So it's basically, think of it as you are sitting down having a cup of virtual coffee with this reader, and you're sitting there just chatting, and you're talking about how excited you are about this, or you're struggling with this, or you're look at this inspiration. I went to Scotland, and I was looking at the William Wallace Memorial, and whatever it may be. It gives you an opportunity to connect on a deeper level and gives you a more a solider base. And because you own it, if something happens, social media goes down like it did last year when we lost Instagram and Facebook and stuff, if that goes down, you still have a way to connect with your readers. You still have a way to keep the information flowing in regards to that. I have to have the tiny editor. Okay, don't break the equipment. Don't break the equipment. There we go.
Yeah, I manually make them.
Yeah.
I don't use the site. I actually do it by hand.
Yeah. Well, I use MailerLite. I love MailerLite because it keeps everything organized for me. And it keeps them all in line
Makes
there.
sense.
And I can connect it with my book funnel. And so book
Yeah,
funnel
that
is
makes sense.
absolutely phenomenal because I can do all my sales pages and everything with book funnel. But we'll do another thing on book funnel later, because that's a whole hour-long thing.
Oh yeah.
So when it also comes to your marketing, another tidbit for you going forward, have a phenomenal team. And when I say have a phenomenal team, I mean, if you've got a PA, you've got your ARC team, your launch team, your street team, whatever, keep them, make sure that you're delivering what you are promising to them, because guess what? Your team is going to be a huge part of your success. I have a phenomenal team. I'm just going to throw that out there. I am. My team is phenomenal. I can bounce ideas off of them. I can have conversations. We engage. It's phenomenal. I don't feel limited in how much I can say or how much I can do. I stay within the parameters of what the agreement is in regards to what I'm expecting them to do. But I can say with a full honesty that I am, by having my team, I am actually seeing more return on investment. It's well worth it. It's well worth it to create that, foster that relationship and build it, because it's been a huge help for me. And I know Jackie had to run. I think she has to go put her kids to bed. Thank you, Jackie, for coming. It was a fantastic, fabulous questions. And we will definitely connect again. But does anyone else have any questions?
There you go. I'm gonna have to get off soon. Tinkerbell's shaking.
Oh, you got fireworks for your edit, don't you?
Yeah, there's people setting them off already, and she is like scared. Anxiety's like up to the freaking roof.
Yeah. No, we don't want that. We don't like that. All right. So that is today's
To the spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet. As soon as we're off of here, I will put it into the group, into the media or the files folder, and I'll put a post up as well with the link. Just make a copy of it, and then you can adjust it however you do so choose. keywords categories, when you're looking at your keywords, there you can always play around with them a little bit, and I recommend that you actually do play around with them, because it will give you it'll give you a chance to see what is working and what isn't working. Don't put up a set of keywords, leave it up for a week, not see any results, and then take them down, because that doesn't give you a good representation. You want to leave it up for 3 or 4 weeks, especially if you're not doing paid ads. If you're doing paid ads, then it's a little bit different, but yeah, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself some time, because the thing is when you start mixing and matching, you don't want to change all of them at once. You want to change 1 or 2, because you may pull one that's been working for you, and if you don't know which one that was that you pulled, then you got to go back through all of your keywords and try it all over again. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it's, it's hard to regain that traction, if that makes sense. So, but I will definitely put the spreadsheet up into the group. Unfortunately, I can't put it up into here for some reason. It's not allowing me to put the link into the chat. So I'll put it up for the whole group. And you guys are welcome to it, just to make a copy of it, and then you guys can tweak it as you need. If you've got any questions or anything about it, just let me know. I'm happy to go over it. And we'll go from there. So thank you guys for coming. If you guys don't have any other questions, I'm just going to double check with the Facebook and see if there was any questions there. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just looking to see if there's going through here. I don't think there's any. Nope, we don't have any further questions. Perfect. So, and everyone, if you did miss us and you're watching the replay, by all means, feel free to post a comment in the comment section, and we can answer it, and we'll go from there. But until next time, we do have a guest coming up July 20th. Bookmark your schedules. Laura Hasted, and I'm mispronouncing her name, is going to be coming. She is phenomenal. She does photography, branding, and she is going to be doing a presentation on how to create a cohesive brand and talk about your images and how to brand yourself with your pictures and create that. So it's across everything, and it looks fantastic and all those lovely good things. We do have one in between then. I'm just waiting on confirmation before I announce what's happening in the next for the next one. It should be good though. I'm excited about it. But yes, if that is everything, have a great night, everyone, and we will see you all very soon. And yeah, have a great day.